All right, go.
Okay, so you asked me the question, what do I think the consequence of being a conspiracy theorist, how does that affect society, is what you were asking me. And to that I said, for me to answer that would be to answer who I am, which I base on 7 principles. 7 principles I live by. Number 1 is that I live with my life purpose being to live in joy. And it's for me first, so that number 2, I can share it with others, to have joy. So all of my life purpose comes down to that. That's my foundation. If I find myself out of joy, I look at the 4 following things. Am I judging? Usually when I'm judging, that's myself, and that starts there. So it's about releasing self-judgment so then I can release judgment in others. If I can do that, often I'll get back to joy. If that doesn't work, I'll look and see, do I have an attachment? So this isn't to say that you can't have attachments. It's good to have attachments that keep joy in your life, but if they're taking you from joy, you might want to look at those attachments and release them. I found that for me, that's been super healthy and helped my life be a lot better. Third thing is, am I speaking from my heart? So this isn't to say don't use your brain. You need your brain. Your brain is what connects the physical vessel to whatever it is that we're all tripping on that's out there. The universe, God, whatever you want to call it, I'm not attached to it, okay? So it's about speaking from the heart. And often speaking from the heart will also shift a state of non-joy back into joy, because you open yourself up and that opens the other person, and it can transmute the energy so that the transformation of the conversation can take place, and you guys can move forward and find joy again, right? And then the 4th thing is to live in the moment, because there is no other time. Like right here, right now is it. Everything I just told you is your memory, and your memory is flawed. We don't remember 100% of the shit that we experience, and 2 people can see it and it be a different reality. So that's the concern there. So just live in this moment and be present with it as best you can. That also makes it so if the other 3 things don't get me back to joy, I can just go, fuck it, I really like being in joy, so I'm going to go back to being in joy in this moment, right? Why the fuck not? I know I like being in joy a lot, so I aim for it. So and then so those would be my walls, and then my roof would be gratitude. So I want to live in a constant state of gratitude. So first off, thank you for taking the time to hear what it is that I have to say and want to experience this time and space with me. I appreciate that. And that also brings joy back really quick. And something that I recently learned for myself about gratitude and being thankful is that gratitude is directly related to self-value. You can't be thankful for something without receiving it. So by default, you are worth receiving it because you're saying thank you. And it was such a huge realization on this whole concept as well. So that's who and how I live. So then back to your original question, how would conspiracy theory from my perspective affect the world, would be a waste of energy, because I would rather be expressing joy and come from that state. Am I conscious and aware and cognitive that there's a bunch of crazy shit going on with the government? Absolutely. But I tune it out as much as I can, because my immediate reality is pretty fucking badass. And I'm going to be here in this moment with my reality and deal with what I can with you instead of worrying about what's going on over there. And if we do that, inherently, if everybody starts doing that, the rest fixes itself. And so that's how I deal with conspiracy theory and the things that I don't like within the world, is I don't bring them to my consciousness, because then I'm helping create it. If it's a reflection, everything that's happening in my world, I manifest. So all the negative stuff that happens, I manifest it. So if I choose to keep it out of my life, I don't have to be cognitive of it, and it's not part of my reality. It's not to say it's not part of mass consciousness reality, but it doesn't have to be a part of my reality just because it is part of mass consciousness reality. My world fucking rocks. So that would be how I'd answer that.
So would you give thanks? I mean, to me, conspiracy theorist is like a theorist in general, like a science, a social science. You're figuring out clues and facts like forensics, and you're putting it all together, and you're making, like valid assumptions based on the information that you have. And with that, you expose some of the corruption in the world, which can be fixed. In that sense, in that scenario, would you then thank the conspiracy theorists for like, hey, you helped solve a problem that either nobody saw, or people were actually afraid to solve, or people were just too out of power tripping that it was such a destructive force that no one had a way to solve it.
So that I would say in that context, if you are going to take on being a conspiracy theorist, you can still fall within those 7 things, right? But it's about, is it bringing you joy? Do you feel like you're doing service for humanity? So the way you explained it, from that perspective, yes. If it's about causing mass fear, though, that's a different situation. So if you can come about it in a way that is educating people without it being a hysteria factor that's knocking everybody out of their joy in a crazy way, if you can come at it in a way that expresses from your heart and you're talking in that moment with that person and reading where they're at and how receptive they are to it and how much you're putting them into a state of fear, I think that you could definitely have that be part of your life purpose. And I believe there are people who that would be their life purpose. So I would celebrate that on their behalf. However, if it's a hobby and it's causing you to live in a constant state of fear and it's stopping you from living a more fulfilled life because you're fearing of this and that, and it becomes all consuming to you in a way that you can't find ways to be of service to humanity and you can't find yourself in joy, that's where I would be concerned.
So, what happens if you yourself stumble upon a conspiracy that's totally wrong? I mean, how do you deal with it, and at what point, when you do get sick of it, how do you deal with either stopping the madness, hysteria that it's invoked inside of you, or simply passing it on, or basically like sharing to the world what you have and then moving on? How would you handle something like that?
Right. Okay. So if somebody had triggered in me a lot of passion behind a specific theory that they had enough evidence to prove that it was something that was concerned to me, right? So then I would take that on as I would anything else in my life, giving it the amount of attention that still allows me to overall be on my life path of creating joy. So if it becomes something that is consistently taking me out of joy to worry about it and there's nothing I can functionally do to change it, then I have to go back to living in the moment and not being attached to fixing that, which can be its own lesson. Because there is sometimes we have just huge passion thinking about, that first breakup that you just really wanted that and you thought that that's what really needed to be done, and then later down the road, after you allowed that to heal, you were able to move forward. So it would also depend on really how much it's going to affect my ability to stay in that state of joy. So if it's for me to get passionate about that theory, it has to be something that is threatening that.
So what if, you finally moved on from that conspiracy and you're trying to live on your life? What happens if you keep getting bombarded by, the conspiracy again? Like you keep encountering it when you're trying to avoid it and just try and live on. It's kind of like, let's say, Men in Black keep driving a black car around your place, and you've moved on from that conspiracy and you keep trying to go to work, and that black car, hits you, rear ends you. You'd be kind of freaked out, You'd be like, well, why are these people after me? How do you handle a reoccurrence when you're trying to move on?
Okay, so that takes it less for me out of the league of conspiracy theory into immediate threats, which it would be a different value than just the overall broad spectrum of a conspiracy theory, right?
Gotcha.
So in that kind of context, I would be defaulting to most of the rules that I try to live by. So for me, it would be setting a boundary. So if that black car is showing up all the time, I'm going to come confront that because it's taking me too much out of it. Like, what's the deal here? I'm gonna do it from my heart. Like, that's sure. Where I'm gonna.
And on the same conspiracy, if you can't confront it because it is the Men in Black and there's no way to confront it, how do you just escape it?
Well, it just becomes, what are you going to focus on in your life at any given moment in time? So if you've gone to the place where you've done all you can to release attachment and judgment, that you're speaking from your heart, then it's back to living in the moment. And so while you have to be aware of that, you be aware of that. But as soon as you can let it go and move on with the rest of your life and keep functioning every other possible way you can in your life. You just have to treat it like it's its own little cancer that you deal with it when you have to deal with it. And as soon as you can stop dealing with it, don't give it anymore. It's winning inherently, taking over your life that much more if the car's there and then you go into work and it's not present, but you're worrying about it being there the whole time, the car's winning.
Yeah.
But if you go into work and you say, all right, nothing I can do about it, just not a fucking thing I can do about it, so I'm walking into work now, the door's closed, I know that they're not going to be standing in here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah.
And your name?
R1.
Oh, awesome. Thanks,
Yes.
man.
Thank you.